Nothing is more important than getting a good night's sleep, and when you don't get the rest you need, your whole day is thrown off. That's why it's so important to choose the right mattress. Sleeping on a Purple mattress is truly a unique experience because Purple mattresses are made with a Gel Flex Grid. The Gel Flex Grid is an innovative material that moves with your body to relieve pressure in areas like knees and hips and support in others like your back. It feels soft where you want it and supports where you need it. Purple mattresses instantly adapt when you move. You don't sink in and get stuck like with memory foam. And thanks to over 1,400 air chambers in the Gel Flex Grid, you will sleep cooler on a Purple mattress. Purple has a wide variety of mattresses, from the original Purple mattress to the Restore Hybrid collection that combines Gel Flex Grid with coils, and the Rejuvenate Luxe collection, the height of luxury, with over 112,000 five-star reviews to prove it. Visit Purple.com to find the perfect Purple for you and enter code PODCAST10 to get 10% off.
Hi, I'm Angie Hicks, co-founder of Angie. When you use Angie for your home projects, you know all your jobs will be done well. Roof repair? Done well. Kitchen sink install? Done well. Deck upgrades? Done well. Electrical upgrade? Done well. Angie's been connecting homeowners with skilled pros for nearly 30 years, so we know the difference between done and done well. Hire high-quality, certified pros at Angie.com.
Breaking news. Whole Foods Market just dropped the iconic fall flavors you've been waiting for. Race through the aisles to snag pumpkin spice, maple and apple cider flavored cult favorites from 365 brand. Head to the bakery for their delightful brown sugar apple pie, plus apple cider donut and pumpkin whoopie pies. And cozy up to savings on select Gouda cheeses, beef short ribs, beef chuck roast, and stew meat, and more for warming hearty meals. Spice up your fall at Whole Foods Market through October 1st.
It's time to get in the zone. Time to get in the zone with the 49ers web zone. This is the No Huddle Podcast with Al and Brian.
What's up, faithful? You're listening to another episode of the 49ers web zone, No Huddle Podcast, a part of the Odyssey Network. I'm Brian Renick. He's Al Sacco. The 49ers are headed to Levi's South to take on I would call them the infirmary Rams. I'm not sure. The Rams missing 14 starters, 14 of them. And the 49ers are headed down to take on their NFC West rivals in this week 3 matchup. Al, if there's ever been a get-right game, this certainly feels like that.
It does feel like that. And if I sound weird, my computer is not working right now. I'm on my phone, so I apologize. But you mentioned the infirmary Rams. Darius Williams, Joe Noteboom, Steve Avila, Puka Nacua, John Johnson, Jonah Jackson, all on IR. They have so many guys on IR, Brian, that they can't even afford to put Cooper Kupp on IR. They have to leave him off IR. There's no way Cooper Kupp is playing in this game. This is a get-right game for the Niners because the Rams, as good as we thought they were going to be, and in week 1 when they took Detroit to overtime, we said, okay, this team is for real. They're going to be there at the end of the season. They're so beat up, they're not. I think they're done. This may be one of those teams where it's just a season from hell, and there's nothing you can do. Matthew Stafford is going to be throwing to Colby Parkinson and Jordan Addison and Jordan Whittington. That's his name, right? Whittington?
Yeah, not Addison.
He's on my sleeper team. I don't even know his name.
Yeah.
My sleeper dynasty team. Tutu Atwell. These guys we don't even know here. Kyron Williams and Blake Corum haven't been able to get it going. They had 53 yards on 20 carries in week 2 against the Cardinals. So this is absolutely a get-right game for the Niners. And here's another thing I think it is, Brian. We keep talking about this next window, right? Because guys are getting older. You figure they're going to pay Brock Purdy. What's the next window? What's the next window going to look like? Well, we're going to get a little glimpse of it this week because you don't have Deebo, who we assume is maybe towards the end of his 9 or 10 year, maybe another year or 2 left.
Yeah.
I hope he stays longer, but if they pay Purdy, it may be where we're at. McCaffrey's aging, so again, maybe another year or 2 of him at this level. So this is going to be the Brock Purdy show and the Jordan Mason show and the Brandon Ayuk show with Juwan Jennings and George Kittle too, but it's going to be Ayuk and Purdy in that role of being that's kind of those top 2 dogs. Again, we're going to see what that looks like with those two, because that really is the window for the next 5 or 6 years or so.
Yeah, one of the things that we talked about with their performance in Minnesota was Purdy's time to throw being really high, but also, his sack totals being really really high as well, meaning that he's holding on to the ball. And again, our assumption was just no one is getting open, whatever the case may be. Some stats have come out since the game. One of the things they showed was on the it was like 14 routes that Brandon Ayuk ran. On 12 of them, he had 2 yards or more of separation. So it wasn't that Brandon Ayuk wasn't getting open. It just seems like, for whatever reason, with what Brian Flores was throwing at Brock Purdy, he just wasn't comfortable. Wasn't comfortable reading the field. Wasn't comfortable trusting what he saw. Whatever the case may be. The Rams, while they have a new defensive coordinator, Raheem Morris, their old defensive coordinator, is now the head coach in Atlanta. They run a much more predictable defense for Kyle Shanahan and his offense. It's a defense that they've seen many, many times. It's a defense that they really find a lot of success against as well, even when they had the likes of Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey and, just a much better cast of characters on the defensive side of the ball. The Rams don't have that. And again, it just seems like the NFL is the NFL. Any given Sunday, we get that. But it certainly seems like the Rams really don't have much of a shot in this game. But we still need to see some things from the 49ers. And this might not be the game for us to make any declarations about, hey, we're back, whatever, because again, this Rams defense is Rams team in general is so beat up. But I think there are some questions to be answered, like you said, about this next window with CMC out, with Deebo out. Who is going to step up? And, I had suggested on our last episode that maybe Jacob Cowing would see a little bit more run. I was encouraged to hear Kyle Shanahan today. Somebody asked him about his muffed punt and whether that would, basically put him on the bench, which I feel like in the past for Kyle Shanahan, if you're a rookie and he puts you out there and you have, a fuck up like that, you're on the bench. And he was like, no, we're not worried about it. Jacob Cowing is one of the most natural catchers of the ball at punt return that we've had since I've been here, which to me is just like the most glowing of endorsements from Kyle Shanahan. Even though, he didn't say a whole lot, it was like, no, I'm not going to bench this rookie. But I asked Matt Barrows had a mailbag, and he reached out for questions. And so I asked a question and he put it in there about whether or not Cowing would get a little bit more run in the offense with Deebo out, on those plays like the jet sweeps, like the, wide receiver bubble screens, quick slants, things like that. Barrow said that was kind of the strength of Cowing's game in college as well. So I think we might see a game where all of a sudden we look up at Jacob Cowing has a touchdown, and maybe he's got, a couple jet sweeps, maybe a bubble screen or whatever. But who else are you looking for to step up in light of the absence with CMC and with Deebo?
Well, I'll go back to Ayuk quickly just to say I watched some of that film too, and while he was open at times, the timing just wasn't there. There were on that touchdown pass, it looked like Brock held the ball. I should say the would-be touchdown to him, where Brock threw it out of bounds. Mm-hmm. Brock held it just a little bit too long. He was open. There were a couple other plays where it looked like the timing just wasn't there. So I'm looking for him to step up, but I know he's one of the obvious guys. I think this could be a big Juwan Jennings game. We've seen how much Purdy continues to trust him. They went to him on that 4th down call where the ball got knocked down. He seems to be a bigger and a bigger part of this offense. And this could be a game where you see Jennings with 5 or 6 catches again. 5 catches, 70 yards around there. I really feel like he's a guy that's going to step up. But Brock needs to also play, I don't want to say smarter. I don't really know what's going on with him right now. So I'll give you a stat. The Niners have a sack percentage in terms of how many times Purdy's been sacked of 12.2%. That's last in the league. So every time he drops back, he's getting sacked 12% of the time, essentially.
Yikes.
However, he's only been pressured, according to Pro Football Reference, on 15.3% of his dropbacks, which is 13th best in the league. That's about middle of the pack. So that's not horrible. But what it tells you is when he's getting pressured, they're getting home, because it seems like he's holding onto the ball a little bit too long. And as I was watching this film and seeing what was going on, he is not looking to check the ball down. There are check downs there to be done, and he's not doing it. And sometimes he's been a little late. So I don't know if he's kind of just locked onto one read. I don't know if he's just reluctant because maybe he doesn't trust Jordan Mason. I don't know if he's just looking for a bigger play to make something happen. I'm not sure, but he's got to play within himself a little bit more. And I'm just going to take 4 yards here. I'm just going to take 3 yards here. I'm going to get in third and manageable. I'm going to get in second and manageable. That's where I'd like to see his head here. But where I think they're going to have to attack them, Brian. I mean, look, the Rams are a mess. They give up touchdown passes of 52 yards to Jameson Williams in week 1 and 23 and 60 yards to Marvin Harrison in week 2. But where I think you can attack them and where I think the Niners will, on the ground. This is going to be another big Jordan Mason game. And I don't think anybody else will step up in the backfield. He's the bell cow right now. The Rams have given up 394 yards on the ground the first 2 weeks of the year. Only the Colts, who are a disaster, and the Panthers, who are a bigger disaster, have given up more. James Conner ran for $122 on 21 carries and a score last week, and David Montgomery ran for 91 yards on 17 carries and a score in week 1. So they have been killed on the ground, and I think that's where you're going to see Ayuk will have to step up. Kittle, you're going to need those big guys, but I think it's going to be a Jordan Mason game, and I think he's going to have $130, $140. I think he's going to have a big one this week.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof like Aloe, Allbirds, or Skims, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and, for shoppers, buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet, and the not-so-secret secret, with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned, and way more sales going. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell whenever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout experience as business powerhouses like Aloe, Allbirds, and Skims. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast.
All right, parents, it's back to school time, and I've got a secret for you. There's a drama-free way to make vitamins part of your kids' morning routine. Lil Critters Gummy Vitamins. You see, my kids think they're just eating fun, delicious gummy bears, but little do they know, they're getting essential nutrients for their health and development.
Mom, we know they're vitamins.
As I was saying, kids absolutely love, and apparently know, these are vitamins. Lil Critters is the pediatrician-recommended kids multivitamin gummy brand, and the yummy way to start the school year.
Hey ladies, are you ready to discover luxury lingerie that's as empowering as it is beautiful? Let's talk about Gooseberry Intimates, where style meets sustainability. Designed and produced in-house in Bali, Indonesia, Gooseberry Intimates is a woman-founded and family-owned brand. Started by a mother and now led by her daughters, every piece reflects their commitment to elegance and empowerment. What's even more amazing? Their commitment to sustainability. Each lingerie piece is made to order, avoiding mass production and reducing environmental impact. Feel good about what you wear. And speaking of style, Gooseberry Intimates has been featured in Vogue, Glamour, and Cosmopolitan. Ready to elevate your lingerie game with Gooseberry Intimates? Visit their website at gooseberryintimates.com to explore their unique collections and join the movement of fashion-forward sustainability. Use code PODCAST for 10% off your first order, because feeling empowered never looked so good. Gooseberry Intimates, where luxury meets empowerment. Treat yourself today.
We talked about it, that one of the things, especially on third down, that this team is missing when CMC is not on the field is just the gravity of McCaffrey and the attention that the defense has to pay to him. And that Jordan Mason, while he has filled in seamlessly on the ground, it's in the passing game where we are noticing the absence of McCaffrey most. And like you said, the thing is when you watch some of the film, there are often times that he is wide open and just ready for the check down, ready for whatever the case may be. And like you said, it just seems like Brock kind of refuses to throw it to him. And my question, and obviously we don't have an answer, is that Brock just like trying to do too much? Which is something that one of the beat reporters asked Kyle Shanahan today in his press conference. They said with CMC and Deebo out, are you asking Brock, or is Brock going to have to step up and do a little bit more or whatever? And he was basically like, we don't ask Brock to do too much. We just ask Brock to run the play that we call. But it certainly seems like an unwillingness to check down certainly seems like that is him taking on a little bit too much, trying to push the ball down the field too much rather than take what the defense is giving him. So it's either that or he just literally has zero trust in Jordan Mason, even though Mason's been targeted twice and he's caught both targets so far this season. So I hope
he's not becoming a robot. That's what I hope.
Yeah.
Because part of Brock's game is that improvisation, right? Everything's going to hell. I'm going to run around. I'm going to make something crazy happen. And sometimes that makes for a bad throw, but a lot of times it also makes for a great play. And that's part of what's made him successful, those plays. Yeah. I hope, I don't want to say Kyle's turning him into it, but I hope he's not turning into a robot where he's just, the ball needs to go here. The ball needs to go here. I want him to keep that part of his game where he's got that Tony Romo aspect to him. That's what made Brock Brock to me.
Agreed. And even if we go back to the 2021 draft when, the 49ers traded up and everyone was trying to figure out, who the 49ers are going to take. They're going to take Mac Jones. They're going to take Trey Lance because everybody knew Trevor Lawrence going 1 and Zach Wilson was going 2. So then it was like, who are they going to take? They're going to take Mac. They're going to take Trey, whatever. And one of the things that Kyle Shanahan said was basically like, I want somebody who can make me right when I am wrong, meaning like who can salvage a play. If I call a bad play, I want somebody who's going to be able to salvage that. And Brock has shown an ability to do that. So yeah, like you said, I don't know that Kyle we know that Kyle wants his offense run the way that he wants it, but I do think that he has trust in Brock that if the play breaks down, he will, he'll be able to make something out of nothing. I just don't think that's been necessarily the case so far this year. I don't think that plays have broken down, and instead of improvising, he's just trying to force it. I just think that he's trying to force things downfield maybe a little bit too much when he would be better served to take what the defense gives him. And again, I don't know if that's, everybody, that's the chatter, right? Like he's a check down merchant, whatever. We know that's not the case, but these players hear this stuff and, you got to wonder, every professional athlete has an ego, right? You're not going to make it to the professional level if you don't have an ego. And maybe again, that's Brock trying to prove something. I don't know, but I really, really hope that he incorporates Jordan Mason in the passing game more, because I think he could do some damage. Like I said, you look at the way that he runs. If you get him in open space where a DB is between him and open grass, it's going to be tough for that DB to take him down. So let's see if they can give him that opportunity. One of the things that I thought was interesting was, a lot of people with the news that Deebo is out, it's kind of like this idea, especially fans. It's this idea like, well, now Brock has a lot to prove, right? Because he doesn't have the Avengers with him, right? Whatever the case may be. My question to you is this, because I have my own opinion, but who do you think has more to prove with CMC and Deebo out? Brock Purdy or Kyle Shanahan?
Well, it's interesting because before CMC got there, they were not scoring. They went about a year and a half where they really had a hard time scoring. And even went back to the playoffs where they went through to run the NFC Championship game, but they were not scoring points in that playoff run either. They beat Green Bay with the blocked punt. They couldn't get past, 17 against the Rams or whatever it was in the NFC Championship game. Didn't blow the doors off against the Cowboys that year, and they were having trouble scoring. CMC gets there. In 2 of the 4 games with Jimmy, they scored a lot of points. There were 2 other ones. I believe it was against the Saints and the Chargers, where they had trouble scoring points. And then Brock comes in, and it's been like 30 plus every week, it seems like. So Kyle, with all those weapons before Brock and CMC got there, had trouble putting up a lot of points other than 2019. Really, if you go back and look at it, they weren't the 30-point a game machine like they have been since with Brock and CMC. But I think Kyle has enough in the bank where people respect him and are going to say, oh, he's the mastermind and everything else. But Brock, if they struggle here, people are going to come after him. So to answer your question, it is Brock who has more here to show. And he could shut a lot of people up. I know they're not playing really strong teams the next 2 weeks, but if he has good games, if he throws a couple touchdown passes, if the Niners score points, that he can shut a lot of people up. He really can. Now, if it goes the other way, might start to hear some chatter. But if you look around the league, most quarterbacks are playing like shit right now.
Yeah.
The teams that are really doing well have strong running games at the moment. And that's because of the way preseason is. Teams start slower, but there's been a lot of bad quarterback play so far, and a lot of good quarterbacks aren't playing well. Even Josh Allen barely threw for any yards in their week 2 win. James Cook ran all over the place. The Bills are running the ball a lot more. So it's going to take time this season for these quarterbacks to get going and get in their groove. And if you look at Purdy last year, statistically, he started out kind of slow last year too. He only had, I think it was 5 touchdown passes in the first 4 games or something along those lines. So he didn't really break out TD pass wise. He had 26 in his last 12. So it was 5. Yeah, it was 5 in the first 4, really until that Cowboys game. And that's when, he started to get everything rolling. So it is going to probably take him about a month before he starts to look really sharp, I would say. But still, if he does struggle in these next couple of weeks, you'll hear people, because that's the medium now, right? It's the hot takes, and that's what's going to get clicks and ratings. So people will go after him if he struggles.
Yeah, I agree. I think, again, when it comes to fans, right, it's going to be Brock, because it's the players that we focus on. I think Kyle Shanahan has more to prove with Deebo and CMC out right now than Brock Purdy does, because I genuinely feel like since CMC has been here, he has been very, very reliant upon CMC and Deebo in his game planning. Like, they have been his favorite toys, if you will. And so what I'm interested in is, what does his game plan look like when his 2 favorite toys are off the field? And I am interested to see if, again, he kind of reverts back to, I would say, conservative Kyle when it comes to play calling and game planning, where feeding the ground game, which, again, it's hard because, like you said, that's the way to attack this Rams defense, because they can't stop the run. And so I don't know if we're going to get an answer of, does Kyle really trust Brock or not? But it'll be interesting to me to see. And like I said, is he willing to put other players in some of those positions that we've seen CMC and Deebo in, so that he can continue to call, plays that he wants to call. But I do think Kyle Shanahan has a little bit to prove with those 2 guys out, because, I still think the game plan in the Super Bowl was too Deebo heavy, to the point where it was a detriment to the offense, especially in the second half. And maybe that's just kind of what is sticking with me when I ask this question. But I do think Kyle Shanahan has a little, not, and again, I'm not saying that he has something to prove to people. I'm just saying I would like to see a good game plan that isn't just gimmicky because Deebo and CMC are out.
Yeah, agree. And we'll see. Kyle's very set in his ways. So True. Whatever he thinks is best right now is what he's going to go with. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's conservative. I think you're completely right. You could see where he relies heavy on his runs, and Brock has a 15 for 22 type game. Maybe the next 2 weeks, you could see that, where he's not throwing a ton. They're running the football. And you would hope against these 2 teams that the defense plays well.
Hiring is a lonely business. Posting jobs, sifting through resumes, interviews with unqualified applicants, being ghosted. What if you could link with dozens of qualified candidates who are ready to work right now with just one connection? That's Express Employment Professionals. Find us at expresspros.com. One connection, the workforce you need. Problem solved. Express Employment Professionals. expresspros.com.
When you're worried about underarm sweat and odor, it can be distracting. Like this. or this, or even this. It's time to silence those distractions with a spray of powerful Dove Men Plus Care Antiperspirant. Featuring our 72-hour protection and soothing 1/4 moisturizing cream. Because when you forget about your underarms, you can focus on being unforgettable. Dove Men. Forgettable underarms, unforgettable you.
When you look at some of these defensive stats right now, I was going through and looking the other day, just because I like to live on Pro Football Reference, because I'm a nerd when it comes to football stuff, and I'm just looking at where the Niners rank and everything else. Yards per play, 6.5. That's third worst in the league. They've given up 5 yards per carry. That's the 7th highest. The third worst defenses in third down conversion percentage this season. I'm sorry, the 5 worst. Washington, 61.9%, which is atrocious. The Niners are second worst, 59.1%. And then you have Carolina, 55.2. The Colts, 54.8. And then the Rams at 54.2. So 4 atrocious defenses in the Niners.
Yeah.
It's scary, right? Isn't
that?
I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it when I saw that. So to me, they definitely have a lot to prove in this game. Now, the Rams offense, again, they're basically playing backups.
Decimated.
Backups in the skill positions. Even with those running backs and what McVay likes to do, I just don't think they have the horses to do it. So they should be able to get well in the next couple of games. But again, in watching some of the film, Hufanga practiced today.
Yep.
So let's keep our fingers crossed that he's going to play, because when I watched some of the film back, safety was a little bit rough. Mustafa had some, and he's a rookie. Listen, he's a rookie. He's going to have rough reps, but it looked like he was in the wrong position a couple times, and they need Hufanga back. And obviously the Justin Jefferson play was a huge one, even though that was Odom. They need Hufanga back at that position. So that's huge if they can get him there. But there seemed to be a lot of confusion on defense, and I don't know if that's just a product of having a new defensive coordinator, of Brandon Staley kind of, putting his imprint on things and people adjusting. But also the defensive line, Malik Collins has played really well. Bosa's Bosa, but Javon Hargrave
hasn't been good.
It's been, he has not been good. He has not been good, and he's somebody the Niners are paying a lot of money to, and we know he can be good. They need him to start showing that. So the defense with some of these numbers, it is a little bit scary. They have forced 4 turnovers. That's mainly because of Fred Warner, who is phenomenal. Fred Warner, 3 forced fumbles in the first 2 games. That's the most ever in franchise history. And he's the 3rd player to do that in NFL history. And he's the first player since Chris Jones to have 2 forced fumbles, an interception, and a sack in the same game. And that was 2017. So Warner is playing out of his mind and kind of carrying the defense.
He's the highest graded player in the NFL by PFF through the first 2 weeks, either side of the ball. So again, phenomenal. Just playing out of his mind. Here's the thing. You always worry about the Rams because they have one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL in Matthew Stafford. Again, the only reason they were in that game against the Lions is because of Matthew Stafford. The problem is Matthew Stafford just doesn't really have anybody to throw to. And so I still am concerned about third down on defense, though, because again, you've got a veteran quarterback in Matt Stafford who can really pick apart a zone and or find a mismatch and really spam it. I don't want to see Nick Bosa dropping in coverage again. That's where I'm like,
right? No,
that's too cute by half. I don't want to see that again. If that punt, whatever call that was, punt that into the sun. We don't need to see that one again.
That had Brandon Staley all over it to me.
Right. And that's where I'm like, nope, that's too much. That's too much influence, right? That is not 49er defense. That's not Kyle Shanahan defense, right? Ultimately, Kyle Shanahan is the head coach of this team. The defense reflects him as much as the offense does. And it's interesting to see something like that because I wouldn't have expected at any point under the Kyle Shanahan regime to see a defensive end dropping into coverage, especially when it's Nick Bosa, who I'm like, what are we doing? Okay. So let's pause on that. Let's not see that anymore. Okay. Like I said, let's punt that into the sun. And let's see if we can get back to what we saw in week 1, right? Like, that's what was so weird, is like week 1 was such a dominant performance, just a dominant performance, to then come out in week 2 and look the way that they did. You go, what the hell happened between week 1 and week 2? You're facing a much more inferior quarterback. You're arguably facing a inferior running back. The only thing that is better is that Justin Jefferson is a tier above Garrett Wilson, right? Who's the number 1 on the Jets. But outside of that, you're not facing an offense that is wildly better than the Jets offense, or at least should be. And you just shit the bed. And so again, we didn't see anything like what we saw against Minnesota. We didn't see Nick Bosa dropping, like, we didn't see that stuff. So again, I don't know why we saw that on Sunday. I don't want to see it again. Do not want to see it again.
I just hope it was one of the things where just Minnesota, it's just always going to be crazy there. Flores was throwing things at Purdy that disguising coverages and disguising defenses that totally threw him off, and maybe just whatever ghosts are in the room in that building. I just hope it was a one-off thing, and we're going to look back at it in a month and say, it was just one of those games. And it's just early in the season. It's so hard with September, the way football is now, to take anything seriously. It really is. I kind of feel we do have to react to it week in and week out. And there are concerns that kind of reared their ugly head, but you almost have to take it with a grain of salt until we get to October, I guess. And you kind of have to take these next 2 games, unless they lose them, then maybe we do have issues. But they should be such easy games for the Niners, man. I mean, the Niners should easily 3-1 going into, what is it, Seattle? That would be the next game, right? And then it gets a little tough with Seattle and Arizona. Are those the next? Is that game 5 and 6?
No. So it goes Rams. Is it Rams, Cardinals, Pats, or Rams, Pats, Cardinals? And then
I thought it was Rams, Pats.
I think it's
if
Rams.
I wasn't
Pats,
on my phone,
Cardinals.
I'd look it up right now, but you have to look it up.
I'll look it up. Yeah, I got it. But yeah, I mean, again, the Cardinals absolutely destroyed the.
They're better than people think.
They are better than people think, but I also don't think that defense is as good as it may have felt like it was against the Rams.
No,
simply because the Rams are, the Rams are decimated on offense. But that offense is good, and what it can do is run the ball. Yeah. Rams, Patriots, Cardinals, and then Seahawks on Thursday night.
Rams,
October
Patriots,
10th.
Cardinals, Seahawks. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I flip-flopped the Cardinals and the Seahawks.
Yeah.
But yeah, they should go into that Cardinals game. They should be 3-1. And then that's a tough couple. All of a sudden, those are tough division games. Because the Seahawks, while I don't think they're as good really as they kind of squeaked those 2 games out.
Mm-hmm.
But Mike McDaniel still has a defense that's going to, or Mike McDonald, I should say, still has a defense that's going to give Shanahan issues, because it has.
Mm-hmm.
And you just never know. You never know with the division team. So those are both two really tough games.
Well, not only that, but it goes Cardinals and then Seahawks on a short week, right? A Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday.
And then the next game is the Chiefs, right?
Yeah.
Which is obviously a game that they're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
So, that Seahawks game also smells a little bit like a trap game, just because of the fact that it's on Thursday and the fact that it's in Seattle. And then again, the fact that they face the Chiefs the next week. They might get caught kind of looking ahead a little bit, but we'll see. But yeah, like you said, I mean, there's no reason why they can't not only win this game against the Rams, but really blow them out of the water. They really should. And if they don't, to me, that's an issue, because again, this team just doesn't match up right now with the amount of injuries that they have. So I'm looking not just for a get right game, but a stomp a mud hole in them game, even with CMC and Deebo out, because you still have Kittle, you still have Mason, who is looking incredible on the ground. You still have Brandon Ayuk, you still have Juwan Jennings. Your offensive line is intact. Like, their defense is just nobody's. Like, they have to put up points. They have to score 27 or more against this team. And if they don't, I've got some questions.
Well, I keep jumping you with the score. So what do you think the score of this game is going to be?
Oh, that's right. I forgot I get to go first.
You got to go first time.
All right. So again, I think this game, I do think this game is going to feature a heavy dose of the rushing attack with Jordan Mason. Just like the Cardinals did, which means that 41 when they rush as many times as they did is pretty impressive because you eat the clock. And to score 41, I don't think the 49ers are going to put 41 up on the Rams, but I will say that they come out of LA. I will say they put up 30 points. So I'll say 31. And honestly, I'm going to say 31-13 because I'm incredible.
Why do we pick the same scores every week?
3 weeks in a row. 3 weeks in a row.
All right, I'm going to say it's a total ass kicking. I'm going to say 38-10.
Okay. Yeah. And that wouldn't surprise me. What would surprise me is if they don't put up 30 points or more. That would be a surprise to me. And like I said, to me, that's an issue. And if they give up more than 13, also a problem. Also something that we're going to come on and be like, what the hell happened? How are you giving up more than 13 points to this team that is Matthew Stafford and nobody else? Nobody else. So we'll see.
100%. Should be an easy win. Bottom line.
Fingers crossed.
Bottom line.
Fingers crossed.
If you're the team that you're supposed to be, you should win this game going away. And I think they will.
I do too. All right. Well, that's all we have for this week. We will be back next week to recap what we hope to be an ass kicking in Levi South. But for Brian, I am Brian. For Al, I'm Brian. We'll talk to you next time.
9-0-3. 1, 2, 3. Hey!
2400 Sports is an Odyssey company.
Doors take us to summers away or winter adventures and afternoon getaways. Your dedicated Fidelity advisor can help you open those doors by working with you on a comprehensive plan to help you reach your wealth's full potential. Because doors were meant to be opened. Visit fidelity.com/wealth. Investment minimum supply. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE SIPC.